What's up, everybody? It's Blake, Modology US, and we got a fix-it video today. And surprisingly, it's not on the Civic. The Civic's got the weekend off. This weekend, we're working on the Focus. My wife and I decided to take the Focus out because it's usually a little more reliable than the Civic is. I mean, the Civic's good, it's fun to drive, but the Civic's had its fair share of problems. So we were downtown and the radiator busted. And I popped the hood on this car, and on the Civic, the radiator is mounted to the core support here. Is the Civic radiator is on the back side, but on the Focus, it's under the core support. So let's see if you can see. I don't know if it's bright enough out here, but you can see, yeah, right in, well, it's right, no, it's not going to focus. Anyway, right down in here, underneath the hose, the plastic split on the side of the radiator, lost all the antifreeze. But I did some research online, and on the Focus, the radiator drops out the bottom. So we're going to try that today and see how that goes. Now, I don't have the car on jack stands. I figure if I need to, I'll take and just use some scissor jacks to maybe just raise the body up high enough to get the radiator out. I probably won't take and lift it where the wheels are off the ground. But yeah, we'll give it a shot. So the first thing you have to do is you have to take off, let's see, this is for the O2 sensor here. And you got to take out the electrical for the fan. And then on the side of the fan, I don't know if it's going to focus again, but down in here, down in there, there's two tabs, one on each side. And the fan you take out, and the fan comes up, and the radiator goes out the bottom. So we're going to take a shot at getting the fans unplugged first. I don't think this cooling bar, like here, I'm not even sure where all this goes to. I don't think any of this has to come out. I think it's just the fan and the wiring for the fan. I may take off this intake pipe just to see if I can have some more room. I've already removed the shroud over the front here. I took this off, and that's the only thing I've taken off. And I took the little bolts out of this. I may be able to just move it out of the way, hopefully, to get the fans out. But there's a lot of wiring that's like attached to the fan shroud. Some of it goes down under the radiator hose towards the back of the motor. So we're going to see what we can do to get all the electrical unhooked from the fan before we try to pull it out. Put that there for the O2. Take and unplug it here. That's got the O2 out of the way. There is a harness that goes up and over. There we go. So some of it's connected to the fan shroud. Well, that one broke. I mean, you know, all this stuff is 15 years old, so the looms and stuff are getting kind of weak, getting kind of brittle. All right. Actually, one of these plugs in to looks like the power steering pump, and I can unplug it there. There we go. Now let's get all this out of the way. Okay. Main fan electrical is right here. Push this and plug it. I think the rest of it can just ride out with the fan. I don't think it's, well, there's another one here. Plug it too. Okay, that looks like all the electrical for the fan. Okay, I'm going to press the tabs and see. I may have to take it up a little and then down out the bottom because of all these hoses here. So let's see what happens. And I also may have to take the top radiator hose off on this side because you can't really get a human hand. Maybe I can get it in this way down here to the tab. Yep, there we go. Alright, that's out on that side. And then we're out on this side. Alright, I'm gonna let them down. Almost. And out the front. And there we go. Okay. I went ahead and put the car up on the scissor jacks. And here's the new radiator, and the only thing that concerns me is this radiator is from rockauto.com. It's a Denso radiator. It was $65, but you see the tab on that side? The one on this side was broke. So I'm not sure if that's going to make a real big difference or not, but we'll check and see. Alright, the only other thing I've done now is I've taken all the hoses loose from the radiator and the top one on this side. And the only problem I had was with the bottom radiator hose, the clamp part was facing that direction. So it was hard to like work my hands up in there to be able to squeeze it with some pliers to get it moved back. So I pushed down on it with a screwdriver and got it to turn down to the bottom, and then just squeezed it from the bottom and took the hose loose. Alright, now for underneath. So far, this is all I've needed. Well, at least to get this far with taking the radiator out and the fans. But underneath, it'll be bright enough. Let's see. Underneath, here's a bracket. Well, let's see if I can. Here's the bracket. And this runs all the way to the other side of the car, and it goes all the way underneath. There we go. And there's a bolt here for it. And then if you can see, let's see if I can get the camera. There's the other one. Back up under there. There's two 10mm bolts. So I'm going to take those out and let the bracket down, and we'll see what happens. Okay. need a longer extension for one. Okay, the bracket is out, and the radiator doesn't just fall out when you take this out, so don't worry about that. But on this end, there was another wire loom hooked through right here, so, and it was hanging from that on that side, so you have to take it loose there. And on this side, don't learn the hard way like I did. The horn is also connected to this bracket, and it's just another 10mm bolt holding the horn on. So there's that out of the way. Now the radiator is just kind of floating in here, and I'm kind of curious about the air conditioner condenser. Like, what's up with that? I may have to find some way to support that condenser, because it's also attached to the front of the radiator. Okay, the radiator is out, and this is what I did for the condenser for the air conditioner. I took that cap off that was on it right here. I just screwed that off, and I took and put a zip tie around it, and then zipped a zip tie to the core support there to give it something to attach to. But one thing I didn't think about was the transmission cooler. I forgot all about it, because it's kind of hid between the radiator and the condenser there. So I wasn't sure what was happening at first, why it wouldn't come out, but that's it. And it's just kind of hanging there. But these clips here on the ends, when I put the radiator back, I want to hook these back first before I set the radiator back in place. Now, so here's the clips here, and these two, and that's what holds the transmission cooler to the radiator. Now, here was the problem. Just the whole side just busted out of the radiator. It was running fine. We noticed, looked, it was getting a little warm, and I guess at that point, like, it already was leaking. And then it was just like, we started to turn onto the boulevard to go, and the whole thing just split out. Steam shot out everywhere from under the car. So luckily we were right next to an AutoZone, so we just pulled in there. The radiator at AutoZone was $120, and they didn't have it in stock. So rockauto.com had it for $65. It's I may have said it before, it's a Denso radiator that I ordered. They had it in stock, and I ordered it on Friday and had it today, which is Saturday, because they their warehouse that it came from was in my same state. All right, so now I'm gonna work on getting the new radiator back in place. Let me show you this little trick I used to get the transmission cooler back on. I was having trouble trying to hold the radiator up and put the transmission cooler back in the clips at the same time. So I just took and closed my toolbox. I had to jack the car up a little more on the scissor jacks, but I used the toolbox to hold the radiator up while I got the transmission cooler on it. Because I was fighting, trying to hold the radiator with one arm and use the other arm to like clip it back into place. So there's that. And now I'm gonna try and get the radiator mounted completely back into its frame. Okay, the radiator is back up and it's reconnected to the condenser back here. It'll focus. You can see it going around that little post there. And I'm going to leave this zip tied until I get the bracket back on the bottom. And then up under here is hooked around on the other side. So when you take it out, you want to slide the radiator to the right and down. It doesn't just go down because you got to slide it off these little posts on this condenser. So you want to go to the right and down, if you can see that in there. Maybe a little bit. All right. I'm going to put the bracket back on the bottom. Okay. Now here's the bracket back in place. I recommend mounting your horn back to it while it's still down. Then as I put it back, I put these two bolts in and left them loose. That way I can still have some play in it. And make sure your little posts from the radiator go in these holes here, or else it's gonna feel like it's not gonna fit. This is the end. This is the good end that's not broke, where it goes around the condenser. It could probably come down a little bit more. I'll work on that in a second. But the other end down there is where it's broke. So, but it seems to be in that little cup part all right. So I'm just gonna go with it. You know, if you're finicky and that's gonna bother you, I mean, by all means, send the radiator back and get another one. But you know, we needed this car back on the road pretty quick. I also made sure the little post was in the bracket on that side, and it was fairly easy to put back by myself, so it wasn't too bad. Once the radiator's mounted, the bracket's pretty light, so it's pretty easy to redo by yourself. So everything lined up. The transmission cooler, there's the tabs for it. It's back in place, and it hooks in like that on both sides of the radiator. So with it sitting on my toolbox, it was a lot easier to put it back on, and I have to hold the radiator up and try to put the cooler on those little clips at the same time. So that's got it all bolted back into place. So now we're going to put the hoses back on. Okay, I got everything back together. The fans are back on and back hooked up. Fan stuff to go in from the bottom. Just be careful not to bend your fins on your new radiator. I may have bent a couple, so just take that as a lesson from me. All the connectors are hooked back up. One back into the power steering, one into the O2 sensor. Then the fans are all reconnected. And then I had a problem. Once I got it all done, I cut this off at first. But after I had it all mounted back, like the whole thing was rocking back and forth. So I took and put another zip tie on it just to keep it a little more stable. I'm not sure really what I did wrong, if I missed something somewhere. I checked at the bottom and it all seems to be mounted right. So I'm not exactly sure why it's wobbling so much, but if you figure it out, leave a message in the comments. But the zip tie there will hold it for now. So now all that's left to do is clean up my mess, all my tools, put the cover back on here, and fill it up with fluid and check for leaks. Alright, I've just filled it up with antifreeze and checked for leaks. I used the orange stuff. That's what came in it when we got it, so I don't know if you've changed it yourself, then You know, good for you. I don't know if I just haven't yet converted it back over to the green. It's just it came with orange in it, so I've just kept putting orange in it. But everything looks to be leak free, so I'm going to crank it up and let it run for a while and see how it does. Make sure it's not overheating, not leaking anywhere. Make sure it gets up to temperature, it gets all the air out of it, because this is like a sealed system. I've never seen a system like this coming from all the time I've spent with a Honda, where the only access you've got to the radiator is through the overflow tank. You know, the lines going down to the radiator and then the lines coming back up, I guess, to let air and stuff out. So that runs down into all this and then over to the engine through that plastic block they put on the side of the motor. The only other problem we've had with this car has been this piece here, this where the thermostat is, that piece split. So that's been the only other problem we've had. It's just been cooling issues with this car, and that's it. Besides that, the little Z-Techs run all right. So I'm gonna fire it up and see how it does. Okay, at this point the car has been idling for about 20 minutes. I checked to make sure that the fans came on its own, and I've been running the AC compressor to make sure the auxiliary fan comes on as well with the air going. So I think that takes care of it. I think the radiator was just weak and just busted. I need to cut it off so it wasn't so loud. But that's it. So I hope this video helps somebody. When I first looked at that radiator, I was really unsure of how to get to it, more or less get it out of the car. So I hope this video helps somebody that's maybe has the same problem. The only other thing I would recommend would be to wear safety glasses, because I wished I would have had some, because when you're underneath the car, all kinds of junk falls out on your face. All right, now this isn't the typical video that we usually do, but I had to do this anyway for the wife's car, and I hope it helps somebody out.